Hey everybody, and welcome back to Sip and Talk.
Back again.
You know, today we're diving into something that's got us both really thinking.
Yeah.
What happens when you ditch the whole, like, follow your passion advice and kind of, like, forge your own path?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because follow your passion is everywhere these days, but, like...
It is.
Is it all it's cracked up to be? That's what we're going to explore today.
Exactly.
Well,
we are.
Yeah.
And we're doing it with The Pathless Path by Paul Millard.
Yeah.
And to make things even more interesting, we got this awesome interview that he did with Lenny Rachitsky.
Oh, yeah.
On Lenny's podcast.
You know, when you first sent me these sources, I was a little skeptical.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have we heard about this whole, like, find your purpose thing?
I know, right?
But Paul's story really hooked me.
Yeah.
He walked away from a traditional career, built a successful business, and his book, like...
I know.
Took off like a rocket.
It's inspiring.
Yeah.
Talk about inspiring.
Yeah.
Like, he threw out the rule book and wrote his own success story.
Totally.
And it got me thinking.
Yeah.
How many of us are just sleepwalking through life on this, like, default path without even realizing it?
Well, that's exactly what Paul calls it, the default path.
Yeah.
You know, go to college, get good grades, land a secure job, buy a house, the whole 9 yards.
Yep.
And what's interesting is that he applies that same concept to work itself.
It's like we're expected to just keep clocking in.
Totally.
And climbing the ladder.
Yeah.
But what if that ladder isn't even leaning against the right wall?
That's a great question, and it's something that Paul's friend realized after reading the book.
Oh, really?
The guy thought he was making conscious choices about his career, but discovered that he was neglecting one of his core priorities.
Wow.
Without even realizing it.
That's wild.
Yeah.
It's like we internalize the rules of the game even when we're the ones holding the controller.
Yeah, totally.
So how do we even begin to break free from this default path?
Well, Paul's a huge advocate for taking a 3-month sabbatical. He says it's a chance to step off that conveyor belt and reconnect with yourself.
3 months, huh?
Mm.
Now, I don't know about you, but finding 3 months to just chill sounds amazing,
right?
But also kind of terrifying.
It definitely takes some planning, but Paul makes a great point.
Yeah.
If we can save for a house or achieve these huge goals, surely we can find 3 months to invest in ourselves.
That's true.
And listen to this. If 3 months feels like a mountain, he suggests, starting with just an afternoon, block out a few hours and do something that brings you joy, something you loved as a kid.
Okay, that I can get behind.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll dust off my old guitar.
There you go.
You know what? Last week, I actually tried roller skating for the first time in ages.
Oh, wow.
I used to love it as a kid, but let's just say my skills have gotten a little rusty.
At least you tried.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, reconnecting with those things that light you up.
Yeah.
Who knows, maybe your roller skating comeback will lead you down an unexpected path.
Okay, maybe not roller derby. But who knows what sparks it could ignite.
Yeah.
So say you've taken this time for yourself, whether it's an afternoon or a full-blown sabbatical.
Yeah.
Then what? How do you actually start exploring these pathless paths?
Paul talks about having path expert conversations.
Path expert conversations?
It's as simple as it sounds.
Okay.
You reach out to people who are a few steps ahead of you on a path that interests you.
So, like, find someone who's living the dream you secretly have.
Yes.
And pick their brain.
Exactly.
Okay.
Most people are happy to share their experiences, especially if it helps someone else.
Right.
And remember, this path doesn't have to lead to becoming some entrepreneur or artist.
Right.
It could be anything that sparks your curiosity.
Yeah.
A new career, a side hustle,
Right.
a volunteer project.
Right. You could be a professional dog walker.
Exactly.
Or a competitive knitter, for all we know.
You got it.
The key is to explore, experiment, and see what resonates with you.
Yeah, and what's cool is that you don't have to have it all figured out before you start. Paul talks about prototyping your leap, which basically means trying things out, seeing what sticks, and adjusting as you go.
It's like that old saying, ready, fire, aim. Just get out there and start doing.
Exactly.
But what about the whole money thing?
Yeah.
That's the elephant in the room.
Yeah, sure.
What if you ditch your stable job and end up eating ramen noodles for the rest of your life?
Well, Paul's got some great advice for tackling those fears.
Okay.
He suggests doing Tim Ferriss's fear-setting exercise.
Okay.
You write down your fears.
Yeah.
And then brainstorm ways to mitigate them.
So, like, facing your fears head on instead of letting them fester in the shadows?
Totally.
Okay. I can get behind that.
Yeah.
But even if you've got a plan, leaving the default path is still a big leap of faith.
Sure.
What if you fail?
Yeah.
What if people think you're crazy?
He's got a great reframe for that, too.
Okay.
He says we should consider the cost of inaction.
The cost of inaction.
Staying stuck in a job that makes you miserable, that has its own set of costs.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That feeling of slowly dying inside.
Yeah.
Not exactly a recipe for a fulfilling life.
Not at all.
But here's the thing. Even if you're brave enough to take the leap, what about all the practical stuff?
That's where Paul's life MBA concept comes in.
Okay.
He compares taking a career detour to getting a traditional MBA. You're investing time and resources to learn and grow, even if it doesn't come with a fancy degree.
I love that. It's like flipping the script. You're not throwing away your career. You're investing in your future just in a different way.
Yeah. And honestly, people are way more resourceful than we give ourselves credit for.
Yeah.
When you're forced to get creative and find solutions, you'd be surprised what you could achieve.
That's true.
Remember that time I had to fix my leaky faucet with a chewing gum wrapper and a paper clip?
You and your DIY adventures.
Desperate times call for desperate measures.
But you're right. When the pressure's on, we can be pretty ingenious.
Yeah.
So we've got the sabbatical, the path expert conversations, the life MBA, but there's still this big question looming.
Yeah.
How do you know when you've actually found the right path?
That's where paying attention to your energy comes in.
Right.
Paul talks about noticing which activities leave you feeling drained versus which ones light you up.
So it's like tuning into your internal compass.
Exactly.
If something feels good, keep going. If it feels soul-crushing, it might be time to change course.
You got it.
Got it.
And it's a continuous process, not a one-time decision.
Right.
Even Lenny Rachitsky, the guy interviewing Paul, had this aha moment during his sabbatical where he realized he was no longer passionate about his work.
Wow. And that led him to create this incredible career path that totally aligns with who he is.
Yeah.
It's like those unexpected detours can actually lead to the most amazing destinations.
It's true.
Yeah.
And it reminds us that even when we think we have it all figured out, life has a way of surprising us.
Always.
So I guess the key is to stay open to those surprises.
Yeah.
And trust that the journey will unfold as it's meant to.
Okay, that's all well and good in theory.
Sure.
But let's be real. Not everyone can just up and quit their job to go soul searching.
Right, and that's where Paul's advice on tinkering comes in.
Tinkering?
He suggests using that word when talking to people about your exploration.
Okay.
It takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
And signals that you're in experimentation mode.
So instead of saying, I'm having a midlife crisis and quitting my job to become a goat farmer,
right,
you say, I'm just tinkering with some new ideas.
Exactly. It sounds way less dramatic.
Way less dramatic.
And avoids those awkward family dinners where everyone's asking when you're going to get a real job.
Oh, I can see that.
But even with tinkering, there might be times when you need a more, shall we say, boomer-compatible explanation?
Oh, I love that term.
Yeah.
You mean something your grandparents can understand without launching into a lecture about the importance of job security?
Exactly.
Like I'm an entrepreneur.
There you go.
Or I'm exploring my options.
You got it.
Okay.
Sometimes you just need a simple answer to avoid those well-intentioned but anxiety-inducing conversations.
For sure. For sure. So we've talked about taking time for self-reflection, having path expert conversations, and facing those financial fears. But what about the fear of failure?
Yeah.
It's one thing to dream about taking the leap, but what if you crash and burn?
Well, Paul is pretty open about his own missteps.
Yeah.
He talks about how he jumped from job to job for years trying to find fulfillment in those traditional roles, but ultimately coming up empty.
Wow.
He even started a strategy consultant business early on,
Really?
but realized it wasn't his true calling.
So even the guy who wrote the book on finding your path had his own share of detours.
Totally.
That's kind of reassuring, actually.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even on a pathless path, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to try things that don't work out.
For sure.
The key is to view those experiences as learning opportunities.
Yeah.
Paul calls it ship, quit, and learn.
I love that. It's like giving yourself permission to experiment without the fear of judgment.
Totally.
Ship it out there. See if it floats, and if it sinks, learn from it and move on.
Exactly.
But what if you ship something and it takes off?
Yeah.
But you realize you hate it?
That's a great point. It's like that classic scenario where someone chases success, achieves it, and then realizes they've created a job they despise.
Talk about a nightmare.
Totally. But Paul emphasizes the importance of focusing on what gives you energy.
Yes.
Even on a pathless path.
Exactly. It's about staying connected to what truly motivates you, even when things get tough.
Right.
And it reminds us that even on a pathless path, you can still end up creating a job you dislike if you're not careful.
So it's not just about ditching the 9 to 5.
Right.
It's about making sure that whatever you're doing,
Yeah.
whether it's building a business, writing a book, or raising alpacas, is something that truly aligns with your values and gives you that spark.
Absolutely.
And that spark, that energy is contagious.
It draws people in. It creates opportunities.
It does.
It's like that whole build it and they will come
Yeah.
thing, but for life choices.
I love that. So you've got your path, you're tinkering, you're paying attention to your energy.
Yeah.
But what about the loneliness of going against the grain?
Oh, that's such an important point.
It can be pretty isolating when everyone around you is on that default path.
You need your tribe, your people who get it.
Yeah.
So how do you find those like-minded souls when you're forging your own path?
Well, Paul's podcast and newsletter have become a hub for people on the pathless path.
Oh, yeah.
It's a community where they can share stories, exchange ideas, and find support.
It's like a virtual campfire for rebels and dreamers.
I love that image. And it highlights the importance of finding your community.
Yeah.
There are people who get it, who support your unconventional choices. Because let's face it, going against the grain can feel lonely at times.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Having those cheerleaders in your corner can make all the difference, especially when you're facing those inevitable doubts and challenges.
You got it.
And I think that leads us to another crucial element of this whole pathless path thing.
Okay.
The ongoing process of self-reflection.
Okay, so we're not just talking about a one-time find yourself retreat. It's about continuously checking in with ourselves, reassessing our values, and making sure we're still on a path that feels aligned.
Exactly. Call talks about how the pathless path is not a destination. It's a journey of continual reinvention.
Uh-huh.
It's about cultivating a deep awareness of what truly matters to us and being willing to adapt and evolve as our needs and priorities change. Okay?
And Paul even advocates for taking regular sabbaticals throughout our careers.
Oh, wow.
Not just as a one-time escape from burnout, but as a way to integrate reflection and renewal into our lives.
It's like hitting the pause button every few years to take stock, recalibrate, and make sure we're still headed in the right direction.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
But what about success?
Yeah.
How do you measure that on a pathless path when there's no clear-cut roadmap?
That's where things get really interesting. Because on a pathless path, success is no longer about external validation.
Okay.
It's about defining what matters to you and creating a life that reflects those values.
So it's not about climbing the corporate ladder or racking up accolades. It's about finding that sweet spot where your work is an expression of your authentic self, where you're energized and engaged, and where you're making a meaningful contribution, however you define that.
You nailed it.
Okay.
And Paul shares a powerful example of this. He actually turned down a book deal because it didn't align with his values.
Oh, talk about walking the talk.
Right.
That takes guts.
Yeah.
It's like he's saying, hey, success isn't a one-size-fits-all formula. It's about creating a life that feels good on a soul level, not just on a resume.
Exactly.
Wow.
And, there's this fascinating concept that really resonated with me.
Okay.
They talk about using a gap year as an opportunity to define your personal success metrics.
A gap year to figure out what success actually means to you.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like taking a time out from the rat race.
Yeah.
To really reflect on what you value and what kind of life you want to create.
Like hitting the reset button on your internal compass.
I like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's a valuable exercise for anyone, regardless of whether you're actually taking a formal gap year or just incorporating those principles of self-reflection into your life. Because honestly, if we're not intentionally defining what success means to us, we're just letting society dictate our goals and aspirations.
And that's a recipe for ending up on a path that doesn't actually lead to fulfillment.
Right.
Even if it looks successful from the outside.
It's like climbing the wrong ladder.
Totally.
You might reach the top, but you'll be looking out at a view that doesn't inspire you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Paul's whole message is about. It's not just about quitting your job or starting a business.
Right.
It's about creating a life that feels aligned with your values, your passions, and your unique definition of success.
It's about being the author of your own story.
Yes.
Not just a character in someone else's script.
I love that analogy.
Thanks.
And, it's not just about big life-changing decisions either. I think this idea of redefine success can apply to all areas of our lives.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like giving yourself permission to set your own standards, whether it's in your career, your relationships, or even your hobbies.
Totally.
Right? It's about asking yourself, what would make me feel successful in this area?
Yeah.
And then pursuing those goals, even if they don't fit the conventional mold.
Exactly.
So if success for me means learning to bake the perfect sourdough loaf,
Yeah.
then screw those perfectly Instagrammable cakes and let's get that bread rising.
You do you.
You do you.
And there's something so liberating about that isn't there.
I think so.
It's like taking back control and saying, I'm not going to let external expectations define my worth or my happiness.
It's like finally giving yourself permission to be fully you.
Yes.
Works and all. And I think that's where this whole pathless path concept can be so empowering.
Yeah.
Especially for those of us who've always felt like we don't quite fit into the traditional boxes.
Oh, totally. It's like saying, hey, it's okay to forge your own path, even if it looks messy, unconventional, or downright weird to other people.
It's like giving the middle finger to those societal expectations.
Yeah.
And saying, I'm going to create a life that feels good to me.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And you know what? I think a lot of people secretly crave that kind of freedom.
Yeah.
Even if they're too scared to admit it.
I think you're right. It's like we're all yearning for permission to break free from the mold and embrace our authentic selves.
And the cool thing is once you start giving yourself that permission,
yeah,
it can be contagious.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's like those around you start to question their own assumptions.
Right.
And wonder if there's more to life than just playing by the rules.
That's like a ripple effect of authenticity.
Exactly. And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe those ripples will eventually lead to a wave of people redefine success and creating lives that are more aligned with their true selves.
Now, that's a world I'd love to see, where everyone's out there living their best lives, pursuing their passions, and contributing their unique gifts to the world, even if it looks a little different from the norm.
And it's funny because when we first started talking about this whole pathless path thing, I was a little skeptical.
Yeah, I was too.
I mean, how many times have we heard about finding your purpose and following your bliss?
Right. So cheers to embracing the unknown, to forging our own paths, and to creating lives that are as unique and beautiful as we are. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
And maybe grab an actual drink to celebrate all this newfound inspiration.
Cheers to that. And you know what? If you're looking for a little more adventure inspiration, our friend's YouTube channel, Mickytolife, is the perfect place to find it.
Oh, yeah. He's got amazing travel stories, whiskey reviews, and all sorts of fun stuff to get you in the mood for exploration.
Thanks for joining us on Sip and Talk.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.